Now let's talk about non-fungible tokens or NFTs, because this is a major use case for blockchains and smart contracts, and it's definitely something you need to understand if you're going to become a blockchain developer. So what is a non-fungible token or an NFT? Well, let's break it down so that you can understand it. Let's start off with the word fungible, and then let's talk about non-fungible. So what does the word fungible mean? Well, really, this word describes a collection of objects. So a collection of objects that is fungible means that any item in the collection can be traded with another item in the collection, and it doesn't matter what you have. So for example, if I have money, let's say I have a US dollar, for example, I can trade a US dollar for another US dollar interchangeably, and it doesn't matter which US dollar that I have. The same thing with a Bitcoin. Okay, if I have the first Bitcoin that was ever mined or the last Bitcoin that was ever mined, it doesn't really matter. I can trade those two because they're worth the exact same. Now, let's talk about non-fungible. So this describes a collection of items that all belong to the same collection, where each item in the collection is worth different amounts. So one really popular example are trading cards. So if you have a collection of trading cards, it matters which trading cards you have, because one trading card might be rare. It might have certain properties that are more desirable, or it's really just scarce. Okay, maybe there's only one trading card like that in the entire collection, and then you have a bunch of common trading cards that are worth a different amount. That's really what non-fungible means. It means that you can't, exchange one for another of equal value. So you can visualize that a little more like this. So you can see properties of fungible collections over here and non-fungible collections with some examples. So in a fungible collection, the items are not unique. All right, they're common. They're all worth the same. There's no hierarchy within the collection. Okay, so examples are Bitcoin, like I just said, and then US dollar. So for a non-fungible collection, each item can be unique, or it is unique. They're worth different amounts. All right, there's a hierarchy among the collection. And if you want to think about it in computer science terms, each item inside the collection can be assigned a unique identifier or a unique ID. And you can't really do that with a fungible collection because it doesn't matter which coin you have, right? So examples of non-fungible collections are trading cards, like I was saying. Also, real estate is a non-fungible collection because it matters which house you have. Okay, location, location, location. All right, the types of finishes that you have in the house, how many square feet it is. Also, concert tickets are examples of non-fungible items inside of a collection, because if you're going to, a performance, then if you have a front row ticket, it's going to be worth a lot more than a back row ticket. So that's what non-fungible means. Now let's talk about tokens. Let's add that word onto it. So in another lesson, we talked about ERC20 tokens and how basically Ethereum and other EVM compatible chains let you create your own cryptocurrency without creating a new blockchain with smart contracts with tokens. Okay. So in that example, all the ERC20 tokens that we talked about, like the stable coins, are fungible tokens. All right. They are smart contracts that implement token-like behavior where you can send cryptocurrency around, you can store it in your wallet. But non-fungible tokens are also tokens on top of a blockchain powered by smart contracts that are non-fungible. There is a hierarchy among the collection. Each token has a unique identifier, and it matters which token you have. So let's look at some real-world examples of non-fungible tokens or NFTs. So one of the most common use cases for NFTs are digital collectibles. So you can see I have the Bored Ape Yacht Club collection pulled up here. So this is a set of, digital collectibles that you can own on the blockchain. So why would you do it this way and not some other way? Why wouldn't you just have a centralized website that lets people, issue these pictures where they could potentially, right-click, save them onto their desktop or something? Well, part of the value of non-fungible tokens and collectibles in this case is that you can actually own things on the blockchain. That's the idea of the Internet of Value. That's what blockchains create. And other people will value these NFTs on secondary markets. And when you own them on the blockchain, you can prove with your wallet that you possess this particular NFT. Now, what's even more beneficial with the blockchain is because it's these tokens are powered by smart contracts, you can create these digital agreements that enforce, some parameters, like the fact that there's only ever going to be, 10,000 NFTs ever created. So that's coded into the smart contract, which means that these are digitally scarce. Okay, there's only ever going to be 10,000 NFTs in this collection and no more can be created. So likewise, this collection is permissionless. So whenever you own it in your wallet, no one can revoke it from you. No central authority can take it down. Okay. You can do with it whatever you want. It's permissionless, right? You can send it to a different wallet. You can trade it on an open marketplace without anybody's permission. Okay. It's transparent, and that somebody else can verify that you own the account to this. All right. If you want to say, hey, I own this digital collectible, it's very easy to send them a link to your wallet address to verify that it's inside of there. Likewise, anyone else can go to a public block explorer like this and look at the smart contract for the token itself. All right, here's the Bored Ape Yacht Club. They can see the smart contract source code to verify that it works exactly like they expect. Okay. They can see all the holders for the tokens. All right. They can see every single transaction that's ever taken place. So these are big benefits of putting this type of thing on blockchain. Okay, so now let's look at how the architecture of a non-fungible token works. So the first thing you have to understand is the NFT smart contract itself. Okay, so you have a smart contract that's responsible for the entire NFT collection. Now, this is something people get confused by. Many times they think that there is a smart contract for each NFT. So for example, if I were to look at this Bored Ape Yacht Club collection, they would think that, there's a smart contract for this one, for this one, for this one. That's not true. Okay, so there's one smart contract that governs the entire NFT collection. So this smart contract is responsible for, enforcing the scarcity. So like whenever you see that there are only 10,000 items in this collection, that's coded into the smart contract. Okay. And then this smart contract is responsible for keeping track of all these wallets and issuing the NFTs and letting them transfer between their accounts. They can, put them in their different wallets or, trade them on a decentralized open marketplace. All right. Now let's talk about the actual non-fungible token images themselves. So we talk about this pretty extensively in the section on IPFS. So definitely go check out that video for a more in-depth explanation on IPFS. But let's just do a quick recap here. So you see these images for the NFTs. All right. Now these NFT images don't actually exist on a blockchain. So why is that? Well, basically, you don't want to put a picture on a blockchain. It's way too big. It would be cost prohibitive to store an image on a blockchain. And in many cases, the file size is just too big. And the blockchain is really just responsible for transaction data, which is a pretty small footprint. And it's not scalable to put an image on the blockchain. So you have a couple choices. You could put this image on a centralized web server. Okay. And then you could get a link to this image and then store that link inside the NFT smart contract so that when someone looks at their wallet, they can see where the image is. But there's a problem with that. That centralized web server, you might turn it off eventually. And then whoever owns this NFT in their wallet, they can't see the picture anymore. So what's the solution to that? Well, it's to put it on IPFS, or the Interplanetary File System. So this is a distributed file system that works kind of like a blockchain. It's not really a blockchain. It's just a peer-to-peer network of nodes that lets you store files and also retrieve them. And then that's where the pictures of most NFTs go. So this picture for this ape right here lives on IPFS. You can get a link to this image. Go check out that video inside the IPFS introduction to see exactly how that works. Okay. But then you get this link and you store it back in the NFT smart contract. And then, the contract is then just responsible for understanding who owns which NFT, how many NFTs they own, which ones, and then transferring between accounts. And then each NFT can go retrieve this picture from IPFS whenever they want to view them inside their wallet or on a website just like this. So now let's talk about the standard for non-fungible tokens, or NFTs. So most NFTs follow the ERC 721 standard. And in our section on ERC 20 tokens, we talk about, the ERC 20 standard, which is really just a standard for how cryptocurrency tokens on top of Ethereum should work. It specifies a common standard so that all tokens work the same, so they're compatible with one another. So they can be stored inside of, wallets. They can be traded on cryptocurrency exchanges, and they work in a very predictable fashion. So likewise, non-fungible tokens have their own standard. It's called the ERC 721 standard, okay? So really, this is just a common interface and specification for the behavior. So you can see the different functions that they implement inside of here. You can see that each ERC 721 must have this balance of function. All right, it must have this owner of function so that you can check to see who owns a specific NFT with the ID. Again, in a non-fungible collection, each token has an ID, so you can just pass in the ID to see who owns it. Okay, you can transfer tokens between accounts with this, transfer from function. Okay, you can just pass in the owner, the recipient, the token ID, and any special data. Okay, you can do lots of other things like approve them, set approval, and all that type of stuff. Now let's talk about other use cases for non-fungible tokens. So we are really just scratching the surface about what we can do with this incredibly powerful technology. Okay, digital collectibles are just the beginning of NFTs. So what other types of things could we do with this? Well, one of them is digital identity. All right, so you already have, an account address on top of, a blockchain like Ethereum, but you could use smart contracts with non-fungible tokens to create a much more robust, decentralized identity, which has lots of other characteristics, okay? And that could be non-fungible. So another is real estate. So you could model the ownership of real estate on the blockchain, and anytime you transfer the ownership of real estate with a sale, you could do that with smart contracts. You could create extra smart contracts that automate the closing process, the escrow, all of that with non-fungible tokens. You could do it with intellectual property. So basically, you're saying like any time that you could have ownership of a real world item, you could basically put it on the blockchain. And intellectual property is a really great way to do this because there's no real physical property that it corresponds to in many cases. Let's say, royalties for music. The music exists, but not really. It's kind of an intangible thing. So you could model the ownership of that with NFTs on blockchain and have all these incentives to reduce the friction for maybe selling those intellectual property or proving the ownership of it, right? That verification, that trustlessness, and that permissionlessness. Also, concert tickets, sporting events, anything where you have a ticket where it's non-fungible, we could do that with NFTs on blockchain and so much more. Really, we're just getting started. All right, so that's an overview of non-fungible tokens and how they work. So this is definitely something that you want to understand if you're going to become a blockchain developer. So I hope you like this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.